pushed open the door to her bedroom without knocking, his usual grin plastered on his face. Mine's eyes sparkled at the sight of him, and she immediately patted the space next to her on the bed. Come sit, I need to tell you something. Curious, Theo moved toward her, plopping down with a raised brow. What's this about? You look too serious for comfort. Mine inhaled deeply, twiddling her fingers. Theo, you know, these days my parents are begging me to get married. He hummed, nodding. That's kinda expected, no? You're 24. They have been hinting about it for a while. But this time your proposal was one of them. She added with a slight laugh, glancing at him from the corner of her eyes. He cleared his throat, eyes turning a vivid shade of red. Mine bit her lower lip. And I have been thinking, I'll marry you, Theo. His heart skipped a beat. You will, he asked quietly. But only for a few months. She quickly added, crushing his excitement. It will be a contract marriage. Theo's smile faded, his throat tightening. Why? He asked after a moment, his voice soft and confused. Why contract? I have a boyfriend, Theo. She stammered. He's overseas right now, but he'll be back soon. I can't tell my parents about him. He wants to become something before we go public. Theo stood abruptly, his jaw clenched. Boyfriend. She jumped up, grabbing his wrist. Please, Theo, you're my best friend. I need your help. He let out a hollow laugh, yanking his hand back. Best friend, he scoffed. Since when have you been in a relationship? 2 years. She mumbled, scratching her neck awkwardly. 2 years. He barked, running a hand through his hair, completely floored. And you never told me, not one smile. Rowan didn't want me to. She explained quickly. I'm sorry. Then looked away, pain evident in his eyes. Are you sure I'm even your best friend? Because I thought we told each other everything. She tugged at his sleeve again. You won't refuse me, right? His eyes met hers, so filled with emotions that one couldn't begin to comprehend them. Then bit the inside of his cheek and asked coldly, and what do I get out of this senseless contract of yours? She brightened, instantly oblivious to the war within him. You want that AI project from my brother, right? I promise I'll make sure it's yours. It's worth billions. Then shook his head, whispering under his breath, my feelings are worth more than that. She squealed and skipped to the door. I'll go tell Mom and Dad. Mine wait. He called out, but she was already gone. Theo, Mine's voice snapped him. Where are you lost? She was shaking his shoulders gently, concern on her face. He shrugged her hand off with a cool expression. Don't touch me. She blinked, startled. Her hand lingered in the air as he tossed his tie onto the dresser, removing his coat and watch without sparing her a glance. Theo, she said after a pause, gathering her courage. Since I'm married to you now, I won't contact Rowan until he's back. We haven't been in contact anyway, not since he left. A tiny spark of relief warmed his chest, but he masked it behind a cold hum without another word. He entered the wardrobe to change. When he came out in his black t-shirt and grass sweats, he found her sitting quietly on the edge of the bed, fiddling with the bedsheet. He walked to the bed and lay down on his side facing the wall. You can sleep on the couch, he murmured. She blinked at the couch, then at him. It's uncomfortable. Then go to the study. He said flatly, I'm not sleeping anywhere else. I let out a small sigh and climbed into the bed beside him. You weren't like this before, she whispered. Everything's different now, he replied, voice muffled by the pillow. Don't you think you're using me? I know, she whispered. But I didn't have a choice. I was desperate. Silence. Suddenly she moved close, gripping his shoulder, turning him toward her. What's with your attitude, Theo? He looked into her eyes, glassy, confused, and full of innocence, and said, nothing. Just don't expect everything to be the same, not after the contract. She bit her lip. The contract doesn't say we have to stop being friends. We were never just friends to me. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't. I'm sleeping in the bed, she declared, trying to lighten the air, but her voice trembled. He opened his mouth to argue, but his gaze caught her teary eyes. His one and only weakness, the fire in his chest dulled to ash. Fine, he muttered, exhaling. Sleep here, but don't keep touching me. She pouted. You're being unfair. You used to hold my hand in movies, hug me when I was sad. That was before I knew you had someone else, he said sharply, turning his back to her again. One stared at his back for a long moment, her heart ached. This wasn't what she wanted, but she had no right to ask for more. Eventually she whispered, good night, Theo. His name on her lips registered something in his chest. He didn't reply, but as the silence stretched between them and the lights dimmed, he stared blankly ahead, wondering how long he could keep pretending this didn't break him every single day. Time skipped. Then stood before the mirror, adjusting his tie, his jaw clenched, eyes tired but posture perfect. He wore the face of a man ready to face the world, but deep inside he was falling apart. The reflection staring back at him was empty, hollowed by silent torment. Rowan. The name haunted him more with every passing day. Just as he picked up his coat, the bedroom door slammed open. 𝐂𝐤𝐭, May's voice rang through the room, laced with panic and confusion. He turned to find her standing there in her soft homewear, her brows furrowed, lips parted, hair still slightly damp from her morning shower. Where did Mom die Tristan and Thalia go? He sighed, dragging his hand through his hair, keeping his expression blank. I sent them to visit Grandma in the village, he said casually. Thalia and Tristan will stay there for a while. Mom and Dad will head overseas for a short trip. One stepped forward, confusion turning to disbelief. Why would you do that without telling me? I didn't think I needed your permission, he replied flatly, and scratched his brow as he looked away. But if you want a reason, I don't want my family getting too attached to you. Her fists clenched by her sides. What? He continued, his voice now laced with emotion. Just in a few days, they have grown used to your presence, your laughter, your care. What do you think will happen when this ends, when you end this? His voice hardened. What excuse will you give to your parents, Wine? That your husband was abusive? That he cheated on you? Or that his family was cruel? Wine froze, her heart pounded against her chest. She hadn't thought of that. He watched her in silence. Every time he looked at her, he felt himself crumbling. He couldn't afford to fall again. But when he knew the crash would kill him, with a heavy heart he turned around and walked past her. Hey, she said softly. I made breakfast. He paused near the door, his back still facing her. I told you not to do anything for me, he said bitterly. Don't make me get used to your presence. My lips quivered. She slowly walked over to him, and without thinking, she slipped her hand into his, intertwining their fingers. We'll always be friends, no matter what, right? She whispered. Then stared down at their hands, the warmth of her touch suffocating him. His voice came out low, strained. No, Wine, everything's changed. This, he held up their clasped hands, will end with the contract. Her eyes filled with tears as she shook her head desperately. Not there, nothing will end. He carefully untangled his hand from her, swallowing down the lump in his throat. Don't worry, you'll forget all this once you're married to Rowan. Stop mentioning Rowan, she snapped, surprising even herself. It's about us now, not him. He looked at her, his face unreadable, the storm brewing in his eyes. Only he knew how badly it hurt to say that name aloud. After a tense silence, he spoke again. There's no us, Wine. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she stepped closer, cupping his face with trembling hands. You weren't like this before. You always protected me. You smiled. You made me smile. He shut his eyes, his entire being aching to pull her into his arms, but he couldn't. That was when there was no contract, he said, voice breaking. I can't pretend everything's normal when we both know it's not. This is serious. He turned to leave, but her voice cried behind him. You have changed, 𝐂𝐤𝐭, she said between sobs. You never let tears sit in my eyes. You laughed with me. You were always so full of life. What happened to you? He stopped in his tracks. She was crying because of him. With a deep sigh, he turned around, his resolve cracking. He walked back to her slowly, and his thumb gently wiped her tears, lingering longer than necessary. Her breath hissed at the tenderness in his chest. But then, in a broken voice, Wine murmured, Rowan used to say I was overdramatic, but you always called me expressive. That name, his jaw clenched. Still, he remained composed. If you want to live happily with Rowan, he said tightly, you'll have to accept this life. Let me be the villain in your story if that's what you need. And he walked out, leaving her stunned, crushed. One sank to the edge of the bed. Her thoughts were a hurricane. What would she tell her parents when this ends? That my husband was abusive. She whispered to herself, then shook her head violently. He's not like that. No one would believe it. Then he cheated on me, she said again, but scoffed at her own words. No, 𝐂𝐤𝐭's character can never be questioned. I know my thief better than anyone. Then her heart clenched, thinking about his family. Cruel in-laws, her voice cracked. No, they're the kindest people. They made me feel like daughter. Her head dropped into her hands and she choked out. I won't lie about any of them. I can't be that ungrateful. She wiped her face harshly. Shame on you, Wine, for even thinking that. She stirred and paced restlessly until her eyes landed on 𝐂𝐤𝐭's phone he had forgotten on the bed. Her fingers hesitated, but then she grabbed it. 𝐂, she called breathlessly. She reached out his phone to him. You forgot this, she said quietly. Their hands brushed, a lingering second too long. They stared at her eyes still glassy, her lips trembling. She was so close, the space between them almost non-existent. Her scent hit him, making his head spin. Don't arrive too late, I'll miss you. She whispered barely audible. He didn't respond. He couldn't. Because if he said what his heart screamed every night, he knew it would ruin them both. Instead, he looked away, jaw tight, and one stood there, heart shattering, pieces by pieces, wondering if there's no us, then why does it hurt so much to lose something that never existed? A few days later, Wine had been unusually quiet these past few days. Her mind constantly drifted to Theon, his voice, his cool but careful glances, the way he had silently hovered around her. She hadn't realized until now, but Rowan hadn't crossed her mind for weeks, not even once. Now she was cool beneath the blanket, sweat damping her temples as fever burned softly under her skin. Her body was frail, her limbs sore, and her head spun with fragments of thoughts, all of them orbiting around the man who was now standing at the doorway. Theon walked in, his phone pressed against his ear, voice smooth and pleasant. Yeah, the next deal might go through if the numbers match. I'll let you know after lunch. No, I'm not busy, just... He chuckled softly, the sound melting into the air. Just taking care of someone. Alright, talk later. Wine's gaze followed him with hollow, tired eyes as he ended the call and placed the tray on the bedside table. Who was that? Her voice was raspy, barely above a whisper. Then turned to her and shrugged casually. Mr. Lee's daughter. A tiny pulse beat hard in her chest. The one who always tries to flirt with you. Her words came out sharper than intended. He gave a half smile. Yeah, that one, she's persistent. One narrowed her eyes faintly, her brows furrowing. Are you dating her? Theon blinked, momentarily caught off guard. Then he smiled, trying to ease the tension. Should I? Maybe I'll get married again. My first wife is sick of me anyway. And sometimes at humor twisted like a knife in her chest. She didn't laugh. Her fingers curled weakly into fists beneath the blanket. The weight of his words, even in jest, was too much, too real, too painful. He noticed her expression, faltered, her lip trembling ever so lightly. Hey, he said softly, reaching for the bowl of soup and scooting closer. The bed dipped beneath his weight and their knees brushed. Eat something, you look so fragile, like you have been sick for years. She turned her face away. I don't want to eat. Wine. He placed the bowl down and shifted even closer, his thigh now pressed against hers through the blanket. Is something bothering you? She didn't answer. Is it Rowan? He asked hesitantly. Should I call him if it helps? I don't care about him. She snapped quickly, her voice thick with something unsaid. He hasn't contacted me once in these months, not even a text, not even to ask if I'm alive. His lips parted, but he didn't speak. He just noticed silently staring at her with unreadable eyes. Once hand reached out slowly, almost hesitantly, and she placed his palm against her fevered cheek. I just want to sleep. Stay with me, please. Her voice was broken, tender, her fingers curled around his wrist, holding him there, anchoring herself in the warmth of his skin. His breath hissed. I'll stay. He murmured, barely audible. Within minutes, she fell into deep slumber, her breathing soft. He watched her unmoving, feeling her warmth seep into him like sunlight breaking through stormy clouds. He gently tugged a strand of hair behind her ear, his knuckles brushing her jaw. Then slowly he leaned forward and pressed a soft kiss to her temple. Another kiss followed her cheek, slow and reverent. Then his lips touched her jawline, lingering. I miss you so much. He whispered against her skin, his voice nearly cracking. He stared at her face, now peaceful in sleep, and his fingers pressed down her arm. Before entwining with hers over the blanket, he didn't move, he couldn't. Being this close, being the one she leaned on, felt too right, even if he had convinced himself that love had died inside him the day Rowan was mentioned. But now with her so near, so trusting, everything inside him had to rewrite what they were. He stayed, his forehead rested against her, their breaths mingling in a quiet rhythm. Two hearts whispering secrets in silence neither could admit. And still all Theon could think was, if only this wasn't meant to end. Frankly, Wine had already made her mind to end everything with Rowan, but then her friend had told her that he was back in the city, married, happily or not, she didn't care. But then piece of news had felt like closure, a confirmation that he had never cared, that he never even thought to You got married so quickly, Rowan mocked just as he attended the call. And you didn't? Vine retorted sharply. You were married before I ever stepped into that wedding hall. You didn't contact me once, not even to explain, so save your pity and keep your lives. I'm done with you, Rowan. Her voice was strong, filled with a mix of disgust and relief. She meant every word, and when she entered the call, a sigh escaped her chest like a weight lifting. God, I should have done this long ago. She murmured to herself, eyes glistening with a strange peace. I should have chosen him, the one who stayed, who cared. Her fingers fidgeted in her lap as she waited for Tim. When he entered, he looked tired, so slightly crumpled, his tie loose and his eyes weary as they found hers. She stood up, heart thudding nervously. A pack? Tim raised a brow as he tossed his keys on the table. What's it? He asked, seeing her nervous expression. Vine hesitated, chewing on her lower lip. Ron, he's back. The moment the name left her lips, she saw his jaw clenched. His nostrils flared slightly as he threw his phone and watched onto the dressing table a little too harshly. Then why are you still here? He snapped, voice low and tense. Why didn't you leave already? She stepped closer, shaking her head. I was going to break up with him, but before she could finish, he yanked his hand away from hers, retreating toward the wardrobe. I don't want to hear your excuses. She flinched. He disappeared inside, leaving her standing awkwardly by the bed, hands tangled, stomach churning. She fist-pumped lightly and sat waiting for him. When he returned, he didn't even look at her, just slid into the bed on his side facing the window. Vine sliding beside him quietly, her hand tentatively reaching out to shake his shoulder. Damn. Her voice cried with emotion. Rowan means nothing to me. I wanted to tell him that myself, but I found out he's married. And I don't care. I don't want him. I want to be with you, not him. Tim didn't respond. He lies still frozen. Her voice rose in desperation. You can't leave me now. I'll stick to you forever. Don't you hear me? She shook him again. Say something, please. Still he didn't move. Her heart dropped. Fine, she muttered voice hollow. I swear I'll kill myself, Tim. His silence continued, except for the tiny stab at the corner of his lips, a ghost of smile. I'm serious, she snapped. I'm not joking, Tim. You know I do what I say. She climbed out of the bed quickly, but before her feet could even touch the floor, his hand snatched her wrist, and in one pull, she fell back onto the bed and into his arms. He wrapped her tightly, burying his face into the crook of her neck. I was just kissing you, he murmured, kissing the tear trails from her cheek. She stopped quietly, pounding her fist against his chest. I hate you. He chuckled softly. Then let me kiss you. You have tormented me enough to. She melted into his embrace, curling into his mouth like it was home. Then gently cupped her fist. What about the contract? He asked, brushing his strand of hair from her forehead. I tore it, she whispered. I'm sorry I made that stupid decision in panic. His brows lifted. And now, I want to live with you, she said honestly. He stared for a long second. Because you feel bad for me. No, she shook her head firmly. Then he stared. He tilted his head with mischievous glint. Because you. Her cheeks flushed and she looked down shyly. Because I have special feelings for you. He burst out, laughing. What kind of special feelings? He teased, inching closer until their foreheads touched. You know what I mean, she said, playfully pushing his shoulder. No, I don't. Please elaborate, Mrs. Special Feelings. Damn, she whined, hitting him lightly. Okay. He laughed again, wrapping his arms around her and pulling her fully into his chest. You're so cute when you're flustered. Their laughter faded into soft silence. Their noses brushed. She looked up, eyes glistening. Stuttered, and then he kissed her. Not rushed, not desperate, just tender, slow, memorizing every second. When they parted, his voice was a breath against her lips. I love you too, so damn much. Her smile was all tears and warm. I wasted so much time. No, he said, pulling her close again. Their legs tangled into the blanket, her hand resting on his heart. We are right where we need to be.